Hey everybody, today we're going to take a look at Joe Biden's approval rating and see how it stacks up to Donald Trump. I haven't done one of these videos in a long time, and since it's around Thanksgiving, it's probably going to be a downtime for polls, so let's get into it. And we're going to start right here on Reuters. It was actually just Joe Biden's birthday the other day. He turned 81 years old to little fanfare, and we're going to get to his favorables, but Biden's age does seem to at least be one of the most important factors in terms of how he's viewed. In short, his age is a problem, so that's going to be an issue Republicans are going to exploit. Democrats are going to be on the defensive. Now, I think age is usually just a number. Biden is 81. It's not like he's 99. But even if he was that old, it really all depends how you conduct yourself. You could only be in your 50s, but appear to be much older than you actually are. The problem for Biden is he comes off as if he's at least 81, if not older. So given that the majority of Democrats think he's too old, you really have to hope that the other guy is worse than you. And that's what I think all the hope is for the Biden campaign. Now, of course, it's not just about age. There is policy and other issues out there. But this video is about the approval ratings, so let's get on Real Clear Politics, see where Joe is at. So right now in the aggregate, he's at just under 41% approve, just under 56 disapprove. That's 15.1% in the red. And if you glance over these polls, his best is -7 from Harris, and his worst is Marquette having him at -20. Now, if you go down to the graph to take a look at the timeline, Biden, like with most presidents, started out pretty strong. He had a strong approval rating for about the first 6 months or so. Then it slowly ticked down and it finally crossed into the red in August. That was after the Afghanistan pullout. And ever since then, it's pretty much been solidly red. His lowest point was around last summer where he was close to -20. Since then, there's some normal fluctuations, but it's been sliding down in recent weeks. Now, if you want to compare that to Donald Trump when he was in office, when he left office, he was at a similar -15%, 41 approve, 56 disapprove. Rasmussen even had him at +3, while CNN had him at -28. That is an extremely large gap. But how did Trump do during his time in office? Well, Trump really did not have a honeymoon period. He was pretty much in the red the entire time. His lowest point was similar to Biden's, about -20 to 21. Then that all led up to when he left office, and right at the end it dropped back off. Now, with both of these guys, there's going to be different factors as to why that happened. You can jump to your own conclusions. Of course, the coronavirus was a factor for both presidents. And then one of the major themes for Biden has been inflation. It's been very high for very long, and who knows if it's actually going to significantly improve. Now, if you're not into Real Clear Politics, we could take a look at 538. Here, it's actually a similar story for Biden. 39.5 approve, 55 disapprove. Now, on both of these aggregate sites, you can click on each individual poll, take a look at the crosstabs, whatever you need to do to get a better sense of these two candidates. If you want more approval ratings, let's get on Civics. Civics uses a lot of registered voters, and they have a long timeline. So here's Biden, his approval rating as president. It's kind of the same thing. Only 36 approve, 55 disapprove. And it's more or less held steady for a long time now. Now, over here on the left, you can click on these subgroups to get a breakdown of that demographic. Now, the main one I'm going to point out here is independents. That shows Biden all the way down at 25% approve, 63% disapprove. And again, that's held steady. But for some comparison, let's take a look at Donald Trump. This is just during his presidency, and his approval rating was almost stagnant more or less during the entire term. It ended with 40 approve, 57 disapprove. That doesn't really look good at all. But if we isolate to just independents, then that approval rating kind of correlates pretty well to his overall approval rating. It's at 39 approve, 56 disapprove. That is a pretty big difference with Biden. Biden's approval with independents doesn't really match up well with his overall rating. Maybe that matters, maybe it doesn't. But independents are a key block to take a look at. Now, that's their job approval rating. But what about their regular favorables? Well, Biden right now is at 41 favorable, 54 unfavorable. So a little bit better than his job approval rating. With independents, then he sinks all the way down to 29. On its own, might not be a big deal. But again, we got to compare it to something. Why not compare it to Donald Trump? And these are his current favorables, not just when he was in office. He's a little bit worse than Biden. He's at 36 favorable, 58 unfavorable. And if we check out the independents, again, it's close, couple points worse, 34 favorable, 57 unfavorable. So as I already said, maybe it matters, maybe it doesn't. Of course, you could go through these different subgroups of age, education, race, etc. There's always going to be things you could find, but independents are key, and if you take a look at them, that does seem to be more of a concern for Biden, at least with these results. So what does all that mean? Well, here's a CNN article. It kind of sums up where things are at. We already covered Biden's age. That's definitely a liability. Other likely liabilities are going to be the economy, inflation, crime, immigration. Also with the Israel-Hamas war. On that issue, Biden has crashed with young voters of his own party. With older voters, he's doing fine on that issue. So that is a divide amongst the Democrats. Will it matter in 11 months from now? Maybe, maybe not. Now, a lot of what I've heard from Democrat establishment pundits is that Biden has just done so much for the American people. It's just a messaging problem. He's just got to get out there and say everything he's done. There could be a little bit to that, but I don't think that's going to help the perception of his age. And unless inflation significantly goes down, most of whatever Biden wants to tout as an accomplishment is just not going to have as much weight. And we're definitely a long way from the general election. Tons of voters are not paying attention to politics at all right now. And maybe by the time they do, things have changed. Biden is in office. If you think he's not going to do some type of executive actions or make any moves to boost his standing in the polls, then I think you're being naive. So those polls that show Biden trailing right now, especially in the key swing states, that's a terrible sign for Democrats. They would be foolish to not admit that. But if they're only going to say, look at the midterms and look how motivating abortion is, that stuff might just keep on working forever and you're going to keep winning every election. But it's also quite possible that things change. And maybe people are sick of Biden. And yeah, maybe they do care about abortion, but they might also care about other things. And they might sit home. Some of them might vote third party, maybe even go to Donald Trump. There's a lot of factors. Plus, we don't know what's going to happen with Trump and his legal issues. He could get convicted. That could change everything. So I don't think anybody should feel confident at all right now. Everybody loves to look at the polls when they're up, then make excuses when they're down. And I think there's enough for both sides to be able to make a case that they're going to win next year. Somebody's going to be wrong. It's probably going to be by a narrow margin, whoever it is. And as for the approval ratings, it looks like Trump and Biden are in similar camps. Somehow Biden is actually even worse than Trump at this point in his presidency, but there's no telling what's actually going to happen. All we can really do is follow it as time goes on. So that's an update of Biden's approval rating and Trump's favorables. Let me know in the comments. Do you care about approval ratings? What do you make of Biden's standing compared to Trump's? And how about independents being a weaker spot for Biden? Let me know down below on your way out. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to support the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.